Hi there, I'm Unwise again, and I'm back with my perspective of the Jets' semifinal game versus the Ronin. This is a sequel to my video on Council's perspective, so if you haven't seen that, you should watch it first. I'll link it in the description. Before I get into the game, I've been informed by many people that they would prefer if I pronounced this player's name as Pew instead of Puke, so I guess I'll be saying that from now on. Let's get right into it. You may remember from Council's perspective that I took Bardur. My spawn has a ruin which is really nice, but 2 annoying mountains and only 2 bears and 2 fruit, so I need to get forestry to get to level 3. I find my second village immediately. I don't really know why I decided to move like that since it exposes less fog, but it ends up not mattering. I opted for a 3 warrior opening here since I couldn't do my normal Bardur 2 warrior opening with only 2 fruit. This third warrior ends up being very useful. Here I buy organization, capture the village, and take an explorer. Beating Luxador gives me stars. I can also see that this is his second village and that it's level 2 without a workshop, meaning he took an explorer and can almost undoubtedly see me. We could try to do a lot of planning this turn like we did in Council's perspective, but we decided my next move was very ruin dependent, so we waited to plan things out. I move on to the ruin, move up, and pass my turn. As you can see, I got stars from the ruin, and once again you can see none of my stars are spent, and none of my other warriors are moved. Needless to say, this is the best possible ruin reward for me right now, and everything you see going forward is possible because of this incredible early start. It was a given for me that I was going to get forestry and level both of my villages to level 3, but I also had to choose a second tech. The 3 we considered were mathematics, archery, and riders, but if you've played with me or played against me, you've probably picked up on the fact that I love riders, and in this case we decided for riding, with the idea to buy roads and mathematics later on. I made 2 riders here, chopping once in my capital to afford the second one and make a path for it. Here you can see I sent the ruin warrior back and found a village in the corner. Luxador also has a full 4 warriors showing right now, but no riders or archers. If I was trying to take his city, this would concern me, but right now my only goal is to out-expand him. If I can take all 3 of the visible unclaimed villages on the screen, my position will be much better than his. I move on to the center village with a warrior, kill his forward warrior, and bounce a 5 HP rider into a position where it can land on the south village next turn. I also make 2 additional riders. Finally, my ruin warrior makes it to the ruin village, and it'll capture next turn. QQ has killed my warrior and moved towards the north village, which I would very much like to prevent him from capturing. I go ahead and capture the center village and level it to level 3, taking stars as always. What I do next is a little bit subtle, so if you want to challenge, pause the video, take a second, and try to figure out what the best move for me with my riders is. Congrats if you got it, as it's a great example of how riders can outmaneuver warriors. Without killing any of his warriors, I've effectively prevented him from moving a warrior onto that village next turn, as moving onto it would actually make it easier for me to capture it. It's a type of rider play that avoids beating your opponent to death with as many riders as possible, instead trying to outmaneuver and out-expand them, slowly constricting their options in the early game. Another important detail is that his visible city is only level 2, with 3 warriors from it, so by refraining from killing a warrior, I've also prevented him from making a new one. This turn is where things start to get really complicated. At this point, I take a step back to calculate the best way to accomplish both my short-term objective of capturing the north village and my medium-term objective of getting giants and sharply increasing my income. At this point, I made a plan for the next couple of turns so that I would have 2 giants and 29 stars per turn by the end of turn 9. Again, if you want a challenge, you can pause here and try and figure out my plan. I made the decision here to abandon sawmills for the immediate future as the cost outweighed the benefit, and instead use road connections and the road monument to level my cities and get giants. I bought roads, captured 2 cities, leveled 1 of them, and microed my units to ensure that I would be able to capture the north village next turn. I also chop very selectively here, once in my ruin village and once in my second village, so that I can continue to apply pressure without handicapping my long-term potential. PoQ kills one of my units here, but there's not much you can do with just warriors to interfere with my development. Here I continue my economic spike, capturing and leveling the north village and leveling the south village. Luxador can't really pressure me here, so I finish my economic plan in peace. I level my ruin village and north village, connecting both and acquiring the Rhodes Monument. I use it and a couple of huts to giant on my right city, which in turn gives me the Park of Fortune, allowing me to expand and giant my second city. It's worth noting here that, unlike most of the turns in this game, which were mapped out by Jonathan, Council, and myself working as a team, I ran these last few turns basically on my own. This led to me making an embarrassing mistake on this turn, a reminder that even if I have the economics entirely mapped out, I should always double check my unit movement with my teammates. You may notice in the final screenshot that my rider on the top city is only at 6 HP, because I hit a warrior with it before moving it back. This is stupid not only because it slows me down next turn, but also because it very obviously accomplishes nothing. PoQ literally just healed his warrior. It's a good example of me outsmarting myself by trying to be clever. The correct move would have been to simply not attack with it at all. Luxador now has a wall on his city. Ideally, on this turn, I would clear out his nearest warriors and move both of my giants adjacent to his city, allowing me to attack it with both giants the following turn. But unfortunately, because I did that stupid little rider movement last turn, I can only kill one of his warriors. A 10 HP unit and a 5 HP unit can kill a 10 HP warrior, but a 9 HP unit and a 6 HP unit cannot. Of course, we're still winning by a lot at this point, so this mistake doesn't change the outcome of the game, but it's a good example of how tiny mistakes can spiral, and it's a blemish on an otherwise extremely clean game. At this point, I move my giants up and save stars, saving exactly enough to get mathematics, 2 additional giants, and 2 catapults next turn. Here, Luxador moves a giant onto his walled city and also hits my front giant with archers. He gets 2 of his warriors pretty close to my cities, an annoyingly good play that is only possible because of my turn 9 misplay, further demonstrating how small errors can have major effects down the line. To combat this, I use my weaker giant to kill one of the warriors, and my riders to kill the other, swapping my full HP giant in to take the city next turn. Note also the flames on the right side of this screenshot. This is the turn where Council sieged PoQ's port city. I went back through and counted the number of unit kills Luxador had and estimated it to be 8 or 9. With that in mind, I retreated all of my fragile units with the intent of denying him a possible monument to pop a giant. I also bought mathematics, netting me 2 additional giants and 2 catapults within range of his city, exactly as I planned out the previous turn. At this point, PoQ and Cronin tapped out, and I'm not going to add much to my post-game commentary on Council's perspective, except to compliment PoQ on his play. My position was much better than his the entire game, but he made no obvious mistakes, and when I misplayed, he capitalized on it. He's an incredibly strong player, and his performance in this game reflects that even though he lost. The Jets have won a second game against the Ronin and thus advanced to the finals, so I'll be bringing you videos on that eventually. I'll also be doing a video on the second game that we won in our series against the Ronin, though I have some other videos planned in the meantime. I hope you enjoyed my commentary.